Welcome back to Feral. I am so excited to introduce or reintroduce y'all to one of my all-time favorite coaches who is doing something a bit unusual and who I brought here today to kind of self-bio and tell her story and also talk a little bit very openly about what the bleepity blap is going on in the coaching industry. So like I said, I'm not going to spoil her bio for you. I'm going to let her introduce herself throughout her story, but I call her Dr. Tina. I've been told that you can just call her Tina. So, Tina, hi, thanks for being here.
Hi, Annie. How are you?
You know, I'm better than the coaching industry seems to be.
Yes, different aspects of it cannot be where you think it should be.
Right. That's putting it beautifully. So, you and I called this chat of ours, Are You There, God? It's Me, the coaching industry. And you and I certainly aren't meaning to poke the finger at anyone other than ourselves and everyone when we say that. But you and I have had many, 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 many chats in many different formats and avenues about how right now there seems to be a whole lot of both Chicken Little alarmist panic and very real, like lead drought financial crunchness going on in the coaching industry, sort of pan niche, like all verticals, all client types, all coaches nonstop, whether they're brand new to the practice or are one of the original like OG Celebra coaches. Like Tina, from your vantage point as a certified, decorated, and doctorated, which is a word I think I just made up, coach, like what do you see? What do you see other than or including this kind of dread, panic, lots of talks about the JOB?
Yeah, so there's two aspects that I see. There are the people that are losing their job and not knowing what to do with themselves, so they latch on to the coaching biz.
Uh-huh.
And they do a weekend course for $7 and now they call themselves a coach and or they've been, as you call them, OGs, and they've been in this for, some have been doing it for 20, 30 years when the word coaching wasn't even like the way it is today. And I think from what I see is those that have built themselves a platform, built themselves, their clientele built themselves, they have something where they have a foundation,
Mm-hmm.
right? The ones that are coming out and trying to get into more of the the aspect of it, one, like as I said, I jokingly said like a weekend course for $7, but
Mm-hmm.
I actually did see that recently on a social media post.
$7 NLP certification, which is terrifying when you think about how powerful NLP can be and the fact that I can claim to be able to do it for $7 and have never had to renew that cert, folks. Never had to
Yes.
renew it. Yikes.
Yeah, and I think that's those coaches that take the position that we take ethically seriously, if those are two words that go together,
Hmm.
but today
Heck
they
yeah.
do. Yeah, it's disheartening because we're trying to uphold the standard of coaching. We want to do it ethically. We want to preserve and build the rapport of clients, and we don't want it to make it a, you know, this once and done. We want, and I don't mean saying it once or done, but I mean, what's the word I'm looking for?
You want a long term client relationship, you want
A
something vibrant.
turnstile.
Yeah.
Yeah. And but we also want to be there to support clients when they need it, right? It's just like when you need somebody, want to be able to guarantee that you go to that person.
Yes.
So there's two aspects of this. And I think what I'm seeing is those who have built the foundation, they are also experiencing some things because people aren't ready to put some money out. They know, and it's kind of like that airplane mode where they say put the mask on your
Mm-hmm.
face. Like that is really what coaching does for you. That's the mask that supports you in your personal development and moves you forward.
Yeah.
However, people tend not to do things for themselves first.
And if the plane's not crashing, you
Yes,
don't think about the mask until it drops out the sky.
correct.
You're glad you have it after you need it or at the moment of panic. But, like, you know, in sales and in marketing, we're always taught, like, what do they wake up and need at 3 o'clock in the morning? Like, what keeps them awake? And I'm like, but wait. That's not when I want people to think of me all the time. Like, when they're freaking slipping out 3 o'clock in the morning. Like, I want them to think of me in non-crisis times too, but in those situations, like, we don't buy crisis materials until
We need it.
thus the constant
Yeah,
toilet paper shortages that roll through every now and then, right?
right.
But
You don't buy cream of tartar until you need cream of tartar.
exactly. And at the exact moment when you need it, then you have to go to the store and your soup gets all weird, right? Like, it
Right.
happens.
Yeah.
But all that to say, I do feel like you're talking to both groups so beautifully. And I feel like knowing this group, knowing this audience, knowing my people and yours, we are talking to way more of the people who are like, oh, these little $7 bitches with their certifications and their Instagram perfection, right? Like, we've all been around the block quite a stinking bit, but I love that you're like, look, I'm not taking this lying down because I have good to do in this world. I have value to provide in this world. The industry will self correct eventually, as all overinflated bubbles do. I intend to see the other side of it, like a zombie apocalypse movie and Rise from the Ashes, which of course I know you will. And what you've done that I think is so brilliant is you've ferried your very real skills that you naturally have, but have honed and finessed as a certified, decorated, trained coach and PhD, like, into this whole new avenue. So, what led you onto this new path? Be frank with us. And
Yes.
how did you feel about it? Tell it, just, I'm going to let you tell it.
Well, I was seasoned. So I have to go back to when I graduated from college, umpteen thousand years ago. It makes a point now because of some of the things that have currently happened in our environment that made me think back then when I graduated. And my mom at the time worked for the government, for the IRS. And I came out of college. And for some reason, I had in the back of my mind, you got a corporate job. It was the most secure thing that you could ever get. And I had an uncle that worked at Xerox. And he was like, you don't change jobs. Like you stay in a corporate job at the time. And it never even dawned on me that I would be in the same corporate job, not the job, but the company for 33 years. And so when the time came and we had a reorganization, I had been let go. And there was this grief period of
Mhm.
crap. Now what do I do? I've like the first time and the only time I had a resume was 33 years before, and now I'm learning that resumes are 5 pages long, 6 pages long, 7 pages long, and I'm like my resume was like 1 page
Remember
and
when we were told it had
had to
to
be
fit
one
on one
page.
page? Okay, good. Like, we're not crazy, y'all. Like, it used to have to be on one page where they were like, we would rather you use 7.5% font and single line
Yes.
spacing. And it's like, oh, God, gag me. But it had to fit on one page. And now people are like, oh, could you blow this up? And I'm like, and not violate the one page rule that I guess went out in the news or the last time I had a freaking actual job. Whoops.
1 page with a lightly colored off like a light, and mine was like a light blue so it would stand
Yes.
out in the stack of
Yes.
papers.
Yes. Or like thicker, lightly textured with a nice like 3-point box around the perimeter. Yeah. I mean, things have changed since then, Tease.
I had this 4-month period from being told that I was being let go to when I was actually let go. So there was this period of, okay, I start looking for jobs, I start doing all the things, I start working with a resume writing company and yada, 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 yada. Fast forward to the end of February, exactly February 28th, 2022, because that is the day that I have a before and after. And the before or the after, not only did I decide that final week of work where I was like, what am I going to do? I had no job set up, but I also knew or felt that 33 years, I could take a couple weeks off and just kind of chill and
Yeah.
relax. And I came from an insurance company, specifically from their IT department. I was a certified project manager. And so I knew I had skills. And there was other things that I knew I had skills that I could transfer. And that final week, I was like, I think I want to go back to school. Now, I've already gone to college. I've had my master's degree in information science. I've also done personal development along the way. And
I'm glad to hear you finally owning what a studyaholic you are, you beautiful dork. Continue.
yes, and I was excited. I figured I'll go back to school, I'll get my doctorate, and it's an actual doctorate in information technology. And I'll use this time that I have free to go to the coffee shops and study and just really chill and decide and be selective of what I want to do next. I also, that year, I was also turning 55. And so there was parts of my brain that were playing with me and you're never going to get a job because you're too old. You're never going to get a job because you're too old and a woman. Like there were things that were happening mentally with me. And so as I come out of the 33 years, and I have to also say that during the last 5 years, I've had to actually grieve that before those years at the company. I grew up in the company was my family. And so it wasn't until like all the work that I've done over the past 5 years that made me realize how much I had to grieve, how much I had to let go because of the impact that those 33 years actually had on my life. And I also say that too because as a corporate person in corporate, there's a mentality and there's a mindset difference in entrepreneur world, which plays, well, which will, not that I knew it at the time, then starts to play mind games with you differently. And so the last 5 years, I have also had to readjust my brain for entrepreneur, solopreneur type thinking
Hmm.
than what you do in corporate, which I would never have like thought that. But now that I've done both worlds, yes, it's purely, there is a difference in mindset. Now,
But there's a sameness in grief. Like, I think it's so interesting and telling that on this very conversation, you bring up the fact that through your own coaching and through your own work and personal development and the masters that you've studied under and all the other things, you've come to understand this necessary process of grieving that period. On a call about the coaching industry, when that exact grief is what, and I hadn't thought about it until you said it, huge light bulb for me, Dr. Tina. But that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing grief of people's businesses. I'm seeing grief of hope. I'm seeing grief of people mourning the coaching industry when it was new. I'm seeing grief of people's funnels that they're closing, businesses that they're sunsetting. Like, I just see so much grief. And so I think that's just absolutely spot on that you had to go through that process of the difference between your expectations, the difference between past and future, the difference between a million things. And so when you left insurance, did you think like, I'm done, I'm never going back to insurance? Like, what did you think you were breaking up for good?
Well, it was interesting because when I started with the company, I was a licensed life and health insurance agent. So, and I had all this, basically all the states that we were required to. And then over the years, as I moved from the sales department over, and I saw your eyes like spark there on sales. It's not the way you think.
Hmm.
So it's a different,
Explain to y'all in a minute why I'm making such bitchy noises at Tina. We'll get there.
but it was, and at the time, and this is really dating, it was pick up a phone and answer it
Hmm.
and take the person's information, send it to a back office. They filled the little like envelope and you got to sign the letter and then it went out the door and that was it. And that was what we considered sales at the time. Now, my years there went from that paper process to a fully automated CRM process, which is what I was handling at the time that I left the company. And no, when I left the company, I did not think that insurance would play a part of my life. And it feels like sometimes like that it was almost, what was it, the Abbott and Costello, where
Yeah.
they like and they pull you back in.
I think that's so interesting is because that's you. The reason I was groaning and rolling my eyes, everyone, is because the way that Tina and I first met is that Tina enrolled in the Non Sleazy Sales Academy as a client of mine and had this very deeply entrenched story that I have permission to talk about, which is that she is not good at sales. And
Not
so
at
for
all.
years, Tina and I were kicking around this idea that she's not good at sales. And all the while, I'm watching her blossom as a coach, learn all kinds of new incredible skills, find out the kinds of problems she's solving, show up on our Monday mastermind calls and like solve problems for everybody on the call on a variety of like brilliant things. She's a doctor of IT, for goodness sake, right? So she just shows up in Tina's and it has value. And then it kind of was this lovely, unexpected rekindling. You somehow fell ass backwards gloriously back into insurance, once
Hmm.
again in sales. And so now that you are on the other side of all of this coaching world, expertise, learned experience, people skills, all these things, what is it like on the other side being in this Alice in Wonderland bizarro version of your life? And I'm not going to say after coaching because you very much still are and intend to be a coach, but
Yeah.
in this crazy time, you're doing just fine because you found this beautiful supplement right back in insurance. So, what's the difference? What's the before to after? How does it compare?
Well, I mean, certainly corporate, excuse me.
My God, I said corporate, or she said corporate, and it killed her. Breathe! You don't have
So
to say
sorry.
that word again. It's fine.
Certainly the um selling insurance as an agent for a corporation, such as you're a captive agent, and that's the only insurance you sell. The insurance that we went and sold was very specific to a demographic and whatnot. As an independent producer, there's a difference because now I can play in different sandboxes because I can play with life insurance and annuities with one company and might play with something else with another company. And so I get to
Like you
pick.
were doing like electric bills with people.
Well, that yes, and that's also, so there's like this, like, it wasn't until recently that I could see how everything I was doing started to morph together. And the root of all of this is my coaching. Because through the training that I've gotten as a coach, I'm building rapport. I am listening. I am asking questions. I'm asking the hows and the whats, and I'm digging into what people need and want when they don't even know what they need and want yet until they get to their ha-ha moment. And even in the simplest, to your point with the electricity, that yes, that's, I have a resource. If you have a brick and mortar that and you're in a deregulated state, possibly can reduce your electric or gas bill. So there
Right?
is fact there, but it's the initial conversation of, that starts with, do you in your lease, like many companies have a lease, is it part of your lease? If it's not part of your lease, let's talk.
What's so funny about that is like you who told me over and over, I can't sell, I'm afraid of sales, I'm terrible at sales, doobity dubbity dur, are now saying like it just comes so naturally to me to be like, hey, hold on. If you've got a problem, yo, I'll solve it. Like, wait a second. And it's just so funny to me because now I get to see the full circle. You are now so in not only your skills, but in your passion and in your faith of how necessary this is, that I know, because I have it on good authority, that you are becoming quite a public nuisance, ma'am, accosting people at chiropractors and in the grocery store with nurtured by the employees semi-cold pitches. Tell them about that.
Yes, so I was in a chiropractic office and I was given permission by the chiropractor to talk to a client that was coming in because the client had several stores. We'll just call them several stores for anonymity. And the client was late. I sat waiting, and as soon as the client walked in, the chiropractor was coming from one side and I was coming from the other, and I was trying to introduce myself really, really fast, and I was able to get the person's phone number and their name and told them, and then I left. And yes, it was kind of like a drive-by.
It was kind of like a drive-by, but you provided value and you got in and out of there and you had it all based on problem solving. So this is what we're going to say to you, coaches. If you are despairing about needing a little, as one of our favorite coaches, Coach Jenny, always says, financial oxygen. If you are in need of a creative way to bring in some extra income right now, don't despair. You've got mad skills, right, Tina? So what's your pep talk for the people out there who need to find or return to their own insurance and need to keep the faith that the coaching industry will revive? What do you say to these people?
Yeah, I mean, definitely look at where you came from, because a lot of us have this foundation that we're here, we got here for a reason, and we are here for a reason, right? We're all here and we all have a purpose. Now, and it might not even be from where you came from, but it also might be from something that you don't even know that you can do and provide because you have mad skills. Like, I am a geek at spreadsheets. So you want to give me a spreadsheet? I'll be happy to work with you too.
That's true. I've seen it.
And any type of project, like, those are the things that actually make me happy. Some people, that makes it crazy. So, what I've learned over the years, I believe, is that everybody has skills that other people might not have. And that as we're working together, we all find that ebb and flow of what we want and what we don't want. And I think that, if during this time that you're struggling and there is something that you can fall back on, I fell back into this for one of the pure reasons is that I decided that what I knew my purpose was not being in a corporation. It was being outside, doing my thing, providing service. And that is also what I'm providing, whether I'm selling sales, electric, gas, whether I'm doing, a spreadsheet,
You're
whether I'm
still rising
coaching.
against the system, you
And
beautiful rebel.
I'm providing service for people. Yeah. So I really think that every one of us just needs to look at what are your mad skills? What can you do? What can you do to make a change or continue to do what you love to do and have financial oxygen. But I also want to say, Annie, especially during the last 5 years, one of the things I also had to come to terms with is there's no shame in financial oxygen while you're trying to. And that was one of the things that, when I said earlier that like I had to switch my mindset of corporate to entrepreneur and solopreneur, is that there was the shoulds and the woulds and the have tos,
Yes.
and once I got past that, there is no shame. If you have to get financial oxygen, whatever way you need to do it, do it. Annie and I joke about feet. So, I mean, there is that, but there's no shame. There is definitely no shame. And I do believe that what we're experiencing is just a lull. The funny part of the lull is, yes, for us there's a lull, but there is this restaurants are still booming. People are still eating out. So the brick and mortars and the things that happen around us are still working, which,
Right?
for
Life is still lifing.
yes, and for occupations or professions
Mm-hmm.
that need to help with lifing,
Yep.
being in the insurance industry, especially because I've rooted myself and I'm a big proponent in helping the entrepreneurs, small business owners with providing group and health insurance to the individuals. As professionals, we have limited options. Those options are opening, and so that's where, like, now I'm creating that service that others like, or the limitations that being an independent professional doesn't afford us that you would get in a corporation. But now there's avenues, and I want to make sure that people know that if you're an entrepreneur or a small business owner, there are options more than what you think, and you just need to know who to talk to, and that would be
So,
me.
where's somewhere you're going tomorrow?
Tomorrow,
Mm-hmm.
like tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Like, where are you going tomorrow? Just name a place you're going. A public place.
Yeah, so tomorrow I probably will go to the fishmonger.
Okay, you're going to the fishmonger. You're so specific. I love it. And you chat up the person in line in front of you, and you get the full Dr. Tina treatment, and you are just providing that value right there in line. How can our fellow fishmonger devotees find you on the internet and tell them what 4 states you're currently covering?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Tina Muheim, Muheim, and there is a doctor in front of my name
Yes,
on
there is.
LinkedIn. And currently I am licensed in Pennsylvania, New York, New Jersey, and California.
Yes. Tina, I adore you. You are so scrappy. If you were going to relate yourself to one member of the rodent or critter family that could be described as feral, or any animal really that could be described as feral, what do you think you would be?
The otter comes up, but I don't think an otter's that much is
It could be. There are
feral.
exceptions. Land or water otter? Sea otter. Water otter? Land or sea?
I'd have to go with water because I'm a Pisces.
There you go. All right, little feral sea otter. Scoot off. It's been wonderful seeing you here. Mwah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Raw, real, and just a little dangerous. This is Feral.